I was born into a wealthy and important family in Cork, Ireland. I was the younger of 2 daughters, and we were the only children. My sister was 6 years older than me, so we didn't play much together when I was little. When I was 12, she got married. I still remember her wedding day. Many people came, laughing, singing, and celebrating, but I felt sad when my sister left with her new husband, Mr. O'Connell. She was always kind, much kinder than my mother. I cried when she went away to her new home in Galway, because I missed her so much. My parents didn't love me. They wanted sons, so they never came up. About a year after my sister got married, a letter arrived from Mr. O'Connell. He wrote that my sister was ill and wanted to come home to Cork to be with her family. I felt sad that she was sick, but I was happy she would visit us. They're leaving Galway on Sunday, my father told me, and they'll arrive here on Tuesday evening. That Tuesday felt like the longest day of my life. I waited and listened for my sister and her husband. Hours passed, and the sky turned dark. Midnight came, but I couldn't sleep. Around 1 o'clock in the morning, I heard a distant sound. I jumped out of bed and ran to the living room. "They're here, I shouted. My father and I quickly opened the front door. We stood outside for a few minutes, listening. The sound came again, someone crying in the distance, but we saw nothing. No lights, no carrots, no people. We stepped into the cold night, ready to welcome my sister, but nobody arrived. My father and I looked at each other, confused. "I know I heard something," he said. "Yes," I whispered. "I heard it too, but where are they?" Without another word, we went back inside, suddenly feeling afraid. The next day, a man arrived with terrible news. My sister had fallen very ill on Sunday. By Monday, she had worsened, and on Tuesday, at exactly 1 o'clock in the morning, she died. The same moment my father and I stood outside waiting for her. I never forgot that night. For the next 2 years, I was very sad. You could say that I stopped living. I didn't want to do anything or talk to anyone. Mr. O'Connell soon married another young woman in Galway, and I felt angry that he forgot my sister so quickly. Now I was the only child of a rich and important family, so before I was 14, men started visiting our home. They wanted to meet me and perhaps marry me, but I didn't like any of them, and I thought I was too young for marriage. When I turned 16, my mother took me to Dublin. "Dublin is a big city," she said. "We're going to meet richer and more interesting men than the ones back home in Cork. We can easily find you a good husband there." In Dublin, I slowly became happier. I met many friendly people, and I went dancing every evening. Young men came to speak with me and asked me to dance. I enjoyed talking to them. I started to live and laugh again, and I didn't think about my sister all the time. But my mother was not as happy as I was. She wanted me to find a husband quickly. One night, before I went to bed, she came into my room and asked, "Do you know Lord Henry Fitzgerald?" "Oh, yes," I answered. He's that old, boring man from Limerick. He's not old, and he's not boring, Margaret, my mother said quickly. He's from a very rich and important family, and he wants to marry you. He loves you. Loves me? Wants to marry me? I asked. But he's making a mistake, Mother. I don't love him. I can't marry someone I don't love. Think about it, Margaret, my mother said quietly. He's a good man, and you're lucky he chose you. After she left, I sat in silence for a long time. Lord Fitzgerald was a kind and intelligent man, I thought. I didn't love him. I liked him. He always talked about interesting things. I never felt happy at home with my parents, but I always felt better when I spoke with him. The next morning, when I saw my mother, I said only one word. Yes, Lord Fitzgerald and I got married the next spring, and 2 days after the wedding, we said goodbye to my family and left Cork. 3 days later, we arrived in Lismore, and I saw my husband's beautiful house for the first time. It was near a river, with many trees and colorful flowers in the garden. Birds sang in the branches, and the sky was clear and blue. I stood beside him, looking at it all, and I felt truly happy. Come, my love, said my husband. You must meet Bridget. She takes care of the house and knows everything about it. We stepped inside, and I met Bridget, a kind old woman with warm blue eyes. She smiled and showed me around. Suddenly, I felt excited to be there. It was a cheerful place. Women sang in the kitchen. Men built fires in the living rooms, and dogs and cats ran through the halls. Come with me now, madame, said Bridget, and see your bedroom. Then we can bring up your bags, and you can wash before dinner. I followed her down the hall until we reached a large brown door. This is your room, she said, opening it. I stepped forward and froze, a cold fear rushing over me. In front of me stood something large and black. At first, I didn't understand what it was. I thought it might be an old coat, but no one was wearing it. I gasped and stepped back quickly, my heart pounding. Is something wrong, madam? Bridget asked.